Well, hey there, and welcome to the Intentional Midlife Mom podcast. I am Jennifer Roskamp, and today we're diving into something that's affecting your life in ways you might not even realize. We're talking about clutter today. And no, I'm not just talking about the piles of paper on your counter or the overflowing closet. I'm talking about how clutter is quietly draining your energy, it's draining your time, your money, and even affecting your relationships. Have you ever felt stuck, overwhelmed, or unmotivated and couldn't quite figure out why? It just might be that your environment is working against you. So, in this episode, we're uncovering the hidden cost of clutter, the ways that your clutter is impacting your mental clarity, your motivation, your stress levels, and even your ability to reach your goals. And by the end, you'll see why tackling your clutter isn't just about having a cleaner home, it's about taking back control of your life. And here's the best part. I'm not just leaving you with a list of problems. I've got a powerful solution coming your way. So stick around because I'll be sharing details on how you can finally break free from the clutter cycle and create a home that actually works for you, not against you. So let's dive in. Well, hey there, I am Jennifer Roskamp, a certified life coach and homeschool mom of 9 who is passionate about helping women just like you embrace the here and now while also being focused on creating the life you actually want. As a midlife mom in her 40s, about to be a mom in my 50s, I've realized that it's so easy to lose yourself in caring for your family, your home, and all the things. Until one day you realize you're not even sure who you are anymore or what you even want in life. So on this podcast, we're going to work on managing yourself well so that you can manage all of the other things and people well too. So let's dive into what it means to manage your home, your time, your family, and yourself well. This is the Intentional Midlife Mom podcast. Well, welcome. I am your host, Jennifer Roskamp, and I am so excited that you are here today to talk about clutter. It is a common problem, and as I record this, we're coming up on that spring cleaning time, and so I think it's a time of the year where everyone kind of has clutter on their mind. And so I'm going to be sharing with you today some hidden costs of clutter that you may not realize are there. We think of our lives as compartmentalized. We think that our home is just this one little compartment, or we think that our clutter problem is just its own little isolated problem and it only affects our eyeballs, right? It only affects what we see. But in reality, that's just not the case. Number one, we're not compartmentalized, right? The things that affect us in one area of our life affect us in other areas. And so I have 6 different ways that your clutter is costing you things that you're likely not realizing. So we're going to talk about those. And then I've got an exciting opportunity for you all the way at the end and a cool freebie as well that we'll link to down in the show notes. So I'll get there in just a little bit. So let's talk about these 6 different costs, hidden costs of clutter. So number 1 is you've got mental and emotional costs. In reality, clutter overloads your brain. Your brain is super wired, right? Your brain is a super highway, and your brain processes clutter as unfinished tasks. And your brain doesn't like unfinished tasks. You might think it's you that doesn't like unfinished tasks, but honestly, your brain is wired to not like them either. And so your brain sees clutter as these unfinished tasks. And so this creates mental fatigue and stress. And again, that mental overload, right? So clutter overloads your brain. Clutter also causes decision fatigue, right? Decision fatigue, we have that in a lot of different ways, but if you've ever tried to deal with your clutter, decision fatigue, you know it's a real thing. And the more clutter you have, the more micro decisions that you have to make daily, right? Do I keep this? Where should this go? And having to make all of these micro decisions, again, it drains your energy for bigger, more important decisions. You need your brain for so many things, and your clutter is draining. It's giving you this brain drain that's limiting the amount of brain power and clarity that you can bring to other situations that you have to figure out, problems you have to solve, schedule problems, right? Relationship problems, like big problems. But you're expending this brain energy onto these micro decisions. And so you've got less to go around. And another thing that this mental and emotional cost kind of this is another way that you've got mental and emotional costs is guilt and shame. And we women are really good at heaping this on, right? Many women feel embarrassed or even ashamed by their clutter. And so they avoid having people over, or maybe you're forever feeling like you're failing. Guilt and shame. How did I let it get this bad? I hear that from women a lot, right? Why are you so lazy? Why can't you just take care of this, right? Guilt and shame. So mental and emotional costs, and these come in the form of clutter overloading your brain. You've got decision fatigue because you're constantly making decisions about it, and you're having to deal with guilt and shame. And that guilt and shame, you spread that on thick, and it rolls over into other things too. So mental and emotional costs, that's hidden cost number one. Hidden cost number two, productivity and motivation costs. Here's the thing, clutter kills momentum. A cluttered space makes it harder to start anything new because your brain is already overwhelmed and overloaded by what's undone, these unfinished tasks. So your brain is being drained. It's already in overwhelm. If you are living in a cluttered space, your brain is likely in overwhelm all the time. So it kills momentum. Clutter also wastes your time. You waste your time in all kinds of ways, right? Searching for lost items, shuffling clutter around from one area to the next. Maybe it's on the dining room table, but then you need to use the table, so you shift it over onto the kitchen counter, but then you need the kitchen counter space, so then it shifts over to the dining room table or the living room end table or whatever it is, right? Flat surfaces, right? They attract clutter like crazy. So a lot of times we shuffle clutter around from one place to the next, and of course we get more and more frustrated as we do it. But moving clutter around, or maybe you're constantly tidying up, right? Trying to do what you can. And this takes hours. If you were to add this all up throughout a week, it takes hours every week to do all this clutter shuffling and all of this tidying up where we try to do what we can in the space that really is overrun by clutter. And this time, of course, it could be spent on things that you actually do enjoy. That's really my mission in life, is to help women manage the have to things in their life so they have more time for the want to things. And clutter is often a big time suck, but it wastes your time. Also, a clutter is a procrastination trigger. When your space feels chaotic, you're more likely to avoid tasks, even unrelated ones, because your environment makes you feel stuck. I often see so many parallels between people who have clutter and also want to start a healthier lifestyle, but they don't. Or they want to get better control of their finances, or they don't. And it's hard. And it's this procrastination trigger that really is kind of at the root of this. But clutter can, again, cause you to procrastinate in all kinds of ways. Then we've got financial costs. So these financial costs, right? This can happen because you, number one, can't find things, and so you end up buying duplicates. Because we can so easily, when we've got clutter everywhere, because we can so easily lose track of what we already own, we end up having to buy things again. This happens in a lot of like home gadgets, I find, or even like tools. Do I have a screwdriver that does that? Or do I have this or that does that? And again, it's easier just to buy new. Have you ever been in that situation where you have an idea that you own something, but you can't find it? And so you say, I'm not sure if I have this, and it's not worth my time and effort and frustration to find it. So I'm going to go ahead and just willingly choose to buy a duplicate. Sometimes that happens, right? But buying duplicates, that's one way you can experience financial cost. Another way is emotional spending. This is a spending language. In my money coaching program, it's called Thriving on a Dime. We talk about spending languages, and being an emotional buyer is one of those, right? But when you've got clutter, it can morph into this emotional spending. And so when clutter is out of control, again, many people try to cope by buying more and thinking that a new organizing system or a new product is going to fix the problem. I see this with cleaning too, right? Like we think that a new cleaning tool or a new cleaning tool is going to help you find the motivation to clean or make cleaning something that's magically easier. And are there great cleaning tools out there? Absolutely. Are there great organizing tools out there? Absolutely. But they come secondary to your ability to be able to do the work in the first place. It's not going to make doing the work any different. It's going to make achieving the outcome easier in some cases, but it's not going to make the getting started part any easier. And the getting started part is usually where we're stuck. Again, especially because the longer and longer and longer that we've had clutter, the easier and easier and easier it is just to do it the same way you've always done it, which is basically not doing anything at all. But this emotional spending, right? Sometimes we also emotional spend to avoid having to face our negative feelings. We feel better when we buy things. We get that momentary like dopamine hit. If you look at it from a physiological way, you get that momentary dopamine hit where you feel good in that moment. You feel excited because you bought that thing. But a lot of times we have buyer's remorse after the fact, right? Especially when we know that really our clutter is the problem. It's not the cool new thing we just bought. But emotional spending, that's a second financial cost. And a third financial cost is storage and space costs. In reality, we know that clutter takes up valuable real estate. And sometimes we end up doing things like paying for extra storage units to keep all of our stuff. Clutter can truly end up costing your money when you feel like you need to change your lifestyle or take on added costs in order to accommodate the clutter. Rather than just going through the clutter and working on eliminating that, you're constantly having to spend money to figure out how to accommodate your clutter. And it never ends, right? One solution is going to work for a time, but if you don't start weeding stuff out and you just keep having more and more stuff, you're going to have to continuously buy more and more and different things to accommodate that clutter. So there are enormous financial costs that come with your clutter. Relationship costs. This is the fourth hidden cost of clutter. Clutter, whether this one might hit home, this one might be a little bit painful to think about, but we need to talk it out, right? When we talk it out, when we have an understanding, then we know what we need to fix. So clutter creates tension in families. It can cause arguments between spouses. It can cause arguments between parents and kids, especially when one person is more bothered by it than the other. And so this tension, right? We don't like this in our families, but clutter can do this. Clutter can also prevent connection. Many women stop inviting people over because they're embarrassed by their home. And this leads to increased isolation and loneliness. It affects the quality of your relationships, and it can affect the frequency of your relationships as well. A lot of women would love to open up their home. They admit they would love to open up their home, but they are ashamed and they feel like they can't, and so they don't. And so they say no to things. And that really, really makes them feel sad, but it prevents connection. Another thing that we experience in terms of relationships is that having this clutter, it really teaches and models unhealthy habits. When kids grow up in cluttered environments, they often develop the same habits, leading to future struggles with organization and overwhelm, right? It's so hard, especially when we go to kind of like the extreme end of clutter and we talk about like hoarding. That is so easily passed from one generation to another. And it's so hard. I've helped clients break free from that. It's really hard. They recognize my mom was the same way. And then you've got emotions wrapped up in there too. And whether or not you realize it, let's just take that example. And I remember walking a client through this, and it was such a process because my mom was this way. And when your mom is this way, in some ways, for you to manage your clutter better, you're almost having to reject her way of doing it. And that's hard, right? Sometimes it's hard to admit, my mom didn't do a good job here. And it can be so emotionally difficult to do. But again, if your clutter is causing problems in your relationships, it's worth it. It's worth doing that hard stuff. It's worth experiencing those emotions. It's worth doing the work because relationship costs are not usually costs that we would choose. When we recognize that they're there, again, that's when we're ready to finally move forward. But relationship costs, that's hidden cost number 4. Hidden cost number 5, health and well-being costs. Clutter, it increases stress hormones. Studies show that cluttered spaces lead to higher cortisol levels, which keeps you stuck in fight or flight mode. It's, again, a lot of times we think it is our choosing, but there's things that are happening in your body as well. There's automatic responses to that clutter that you are having to fight against when you're trying to deal with your clutter as well. And knowing that can bring this added motivation to actually start making progress. Because when you start making progress, all of those stress levels come down, right? So clutter increases stress hormones. It also leads to poor sleep. A cluttered bedroom creates a more restless mind, and it makes it harder to fall asleep and stay asleep. So it leads to poor sleep. And if you're getting minimal sleep anyway, you definitely need that sleep to be quality. So if you're getting too little sleep and it's poor quality and then you've got clutter, this is, I hope, a real motivator for you to get in there and start making some progress. And don't worry, I'm going to give you some help here. We're almost getting there, but we don't want you getting poor sleep. And another thing that clutter can do is it can zap your energy. When your home feels like a project instead of a place of rest, you never feel fully recharged. I can't ever quiet. I can't ever have a moment of relaxation because my mind is always thinking about what needs to be done. My emotions are always in that shame and frustration and guilt. And that doesn't allow me to rest. It zaps your energy. The sixth hidden cost of clutter is opportunity and growth costs. So clutter, it really does keep you stuck in the past. Holding on to unnecessary items, it can keep you emotionally tied to previous seasons of life instead of stepping into the next chapter, instead of stepping into and being part of where you are right now. You have a beautiful life to create right now. And the past can play a role in all of those memories. They're amazing. But sometimes when those memories are also attached to clutter, it can really just keep you stuck. And that can affect your ability to be present. And that's one of the things I hear from women all the time that they desire. What is something, if you could choose, if you could choose one thing to change in your life right now, what would it be? A lot of times I hear, I would like to be more present. I just feel like I can't be present. My mind is always going 1,000 miles a minute and I'm never truly present. Well, if you've got clutter, that's all the more reason to start working on that, but it can keep you stuck in the past. Clutter also hinders personal growth. When your environment is chaotic, it's harder to focus on bigger life goals. And these can be as big as a career or maybe smaller, like better health, right? I just want to start with healthier eating habits or getting some consistent exercise. Maybe it's a hobby that you've always wanted to start, but you've been putting it off. When you are saddled by clutter, your personal growth and your ability to actually put that into action is hindered. So it hinders personal growth. Also, clutter also steals the peace of a fresh start. You deserve a home that feels light and peaceful and inspiring, not a source of stress. So let me really quick take you through all 6 of these hidden costs of clutter again. Number 1, mental and emotional costs. We talked about things like brain drain and decision fatigue and guilt and shame. Clutter hidden cost number 2, productivity and motivation costs. We talked about how it's a momentum killer. We talked about how it's wasting your time and it's really inviting procrastination. The third hidden cost is financial costs. Sometimes it's buying duplicates, it's emotional spending. And it's having to continuously buy new and different and more things to accommodate your clutter. The fourth hidden cost is relationship costs. This comes in the form of tension, a lack of being able to connect, and also modeling and teaching unhealthy habits. We don't want to teach our kids those. The fifth hidden cost is health and well-being costs. You're in this fight or flight mode. You're getting poor sleep. You're getting your energy. It's draining your energy. And the sixth hidden cost is opportunity and growth costs. You're stuck in the past. Often your clutter keeps you there. It hinders your personal growth, and it also steals the peace of a fresh thought. The thing is, clutter isn't just stuff. It serves as a barrier. It acts as a barrier in many ways to creating the life that you want. Decluttering, it isn't just about cleaning. It's about creating a space for clarity, for peace, and for purpose. So, in the next episode, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into this, and we're going to talk about how you can start taking back control without feeling overwhelmed or without making it a full-time job. So make sure that you're tuning in for that episode next week. But I don't want to leave you hanging this week. I've actually got a clutter resource for you. It's free. We'll link to it down in the show notes. It talks about 10 different clutter languages. Often we have multiple languages, multiple kind of reasons for the clutter struggle. That's what a clutter language is. So you'll be able to see what all 10 clutter languages are. You'll be able to see kind of what you identify with. And there's a few quick take action tips that will help you start to move forward when you identify where you fall with these clutter languages. And the best part is that when you have opted in for that clutter freebie, you'll also be on the list to get information for when we open registration for my clutter control workshop. I'm teaching it live in February. There'll be replays, but I'm teaching it live in February. And as long as you grab that clutter freebie, you'll be on the list to get notified when registration opens. It is not going to cost you a whole lot at all, just $7. And there's a free class workbook that comes with it. So you're going to want to make sure you're on the list for that. So grab the clutter freebie for that as well. Again, we'll link to it down in the show notes. So thank you so much for joining me here today. I'll see you again next week. Make sure you tune in for part 2. You'll want to start to learn how to move forward. Make it a great week, everyone. We'll talk again soon.